Money only moves if people move it, right? So if we decide to do business, we decide to move money into a bank account, move money out of a bank account, spend through a debit card or a credit card, we're moving money every single day. Life means, to extend yourself out into the world. You're making decisions. You're choosing to buy a product or a service from another business owner or an institution or an organization. That's how money moves.
Hello and welcome back to Ignition Path Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Goodknight. I'm so happy that you're joining us today. I want to make sure that you like, subscribe, and share as you come into this, as you hear this episode today. And if something resonates with you or resonates with someone that you know, don't hesitate to hit that share button, get that out to them, get this information to you. So today I'm very excited. I met this guest probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we just hit it off great. The first time we talked, it was like we've known each other forever. We have a lot of the same aligned. It actually was really hard to decide which podcast to come on first because I have two podcasts, as everybody knows. Shameless plug, going into the Elevate podcast. She is a post-traumatic growth specialist, and so she could totally fit into that category of first responders. But also, too, she has started a nonprofit, Inspire World Foundation, that also used her entrepreneurial path, and that's why she's on the Ignition Path podcast today. So today I have Connie Davis. Connie, how are you?
I'm good, Kyle. Good to see you again.
Fantastic. Well, welcome to the Ignition Path podcast. We may be live. Something just came up when I hit record. It says live stream. So I think I may be going live somewhere. That's okay. If I'm live somewhere, I'm live somewhere. That's fantastic. So, we'll see what the live looks like after I edit. The live will be raw and real, and people they can comment and stuff in the chat. I'm not sure exactly where the last time I did something, I did a live inside of a Facebook group. But I don't think it'll actually be in that group because I have to be inside of Facebook to actually allow it to do its thing. So it's probably saying, hey, I want to go live to this address, but it's really not happening. So I'm pretty sure it's not live. But
we'll just pretend that it is and just have
we'll pretend that it is. I don't care. I mean, I like we literally right before we hit record, everybody, just to catch you up on something. We have zero script for today, which I love, and Connie agrees. It keeps it real, raw, and to the truth. And the questions that I ask, I have no idea what questions I'm going to ask. It's going to literally go off of when she describes what she does. I think on my feet. Being a paramedic, I'm always willing and needing to think on my feet. So that's the way I do my interview style. Is I make sure that everything is nice and fluid and nothing canned for the most part. Once in a blue moon, I'll have I want to make sure I want to ask this question from our first meeting. But Connie, say hi to everybody and introduce yourself, and let's get this started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Kyle.
You are welcome.
Yeah, so to introduce myself, I live here in Florida. I am a mom, I am a widow, I am a sister, and all of the wonderful hats that we wear as women, right? And I'm also a female founder. I have been on an entrepreneurial journey for about 5 years where I left corporate financial services, so I was in fintech for almost 30 years. And I spent a lot of time bringing in a lot of cool payment products, right, to move money from place to place. But I started on a journey outside of that corporate journey to study a different type of money movement. And it was really pretty incredible. The opportunities that have fallen in my lap, literally, to show me a different side of the world of money movement. And that's what I'm here to really talk about today. But the other parts of my journey to align with you as an EMT, I became a love and authenticity practitioner in 2021. And I've continued that journey into, I thought I wanted to be a coach. I don't want to be a coach. I'm a digital advocate for how do we build systems that see all people and serve all people and move money across all people. So that's really kind of the path that I've been on. It's been really fascinating to kind of come to digital first aid for people. So that's what I resonated with when you told me what you do, is I try to come to the rescue of individuals that are drowning in systems, especially around money movement. And having money wounds that we need to apply first aid to.
Right, right. Well, and that's, that really sparks a lot of, I mean, I think we're going to fill our time with just that sentence, because there's a lot of questions that, and a lot of statements that I've found through not only the first responder path, but the entrepreneurial path. Entrepreneurial path is it's no joke. There's money issues. There's clients who drop out that pay you money every month, and all of a sudden they don't pay you for a couple of months, and you're like, "Why are you not paying me?" And they're like, "Well, because I'm changing my direction." I'm like, "But you got to keep me in the you got to keep me in the loop here." So money issues and money first aid and how to move money around. Like right now I use Stripe. I can't stand it. They knock the crap out of me when it comes to stuff. But it's like the industry standard for how someone purchases my services, when it comes to my podcast productions and stuff like that. So a little bit different on the voiceover side of things. The money can come from several different areas, including a paper check sent to my house or a direct deposit. So a little bit different with that with some of the corporations. But when it comes to the stress that money puts on us in the entrepreneurial world and the first responder world, because that's a whole chapter in my first responder program, is the financial stuff. Because typically first responders, when they're young and they get a job and they're all of a sudden making all this money as a first responder, they go buy a big truck, and then they find someone they fall in love with and get married a year or two later, and all of a sudden they've got this truck weight on them, literally financial weight, and then they got a new wife or kid and a house, and it's like all of a sudden they're in financial ruin. So that is a big topic. I actually have spoke with do you know the financial cop? You know
No,
him?
I don't. I
Okay,
don't.
yeah, I believe I can't remember where he's out of, but financialcop.com is somebody who's going to be coming on my podcast for the First Responder podcast, because he was a police officer, is a police officer, but he knew money really well. And so all of a sudden he started helping his fellow officers, and then people were like, "Hey, listen, you need to take this to the management and get this taught." Almost, it's not quite Dave Ramsey stuff, but it's somewhere along the lines of tidying up your financial your financial well-being. And so he's now created a business in it, and it's a perfect. He's another dual guy. He's going to come on Ignition Path because he's an entrepreneur through it, and he's a first responder. So tell us more about what you mean about money movement. It's not laundering. That's not what we're talking about. Like, what do you mean by money movement? Like explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so money only moves if people move it, right? So if we decide to do business, we decide to move money into a bank account, move money out of a bank account, spend through a debit card or a credit card, we're moving money every single day. Life means, to extend yourself out into the world. You're making decisions. You're choosing to buy a product or a service from another business owner or an institution or an organization. That's how money moves, is we decide as people, as human beings, to move money. And sometimes that is for our own family and our own good. And then sometimes there are, on the money wounds side of it, there are times when people move money to do things and to inflict harm. And that's the other side of the coin, right? So if we think about the money game, there's a game out there. There's, people that are doing it to just earn a wage and an income and to support their family. And they're, law-abiding citizens, and they're doing amazing things, building up that community in their home out to their community and their friends and family. But there are other types of enterprises out there that are doing unfortunate things with money, or shaming people with money, or, predatory things that really inflict harm, and it creates a ripple effect in our communities. And that is where, my work as a post-traumatic growth officer at Inspire World Foundation is really trying to create awareness, advocating for different types of technology approaches to move money, and also to create social impact with money.
Right. Well, and let's also take a step back too. So you mentioned earlier that you worked in the corporate world. When did you, for your entrepreneur, when did your corporate mentality switch to an entrepreneurial mentality and want to serve your fellow entrepreneurs? Because that's what you do. Basically, you're out there, your clients are entrepreneurs that you try to help shape their ability to move money and make money and to be financially sound, is how I understood it from our first conversation. So talk a little bit about that path.
Yeah, so while I was in corporate, I was studying the next wave of where could we build a new financial technology service, right, for the financial institutions, for customers that, need different products. That was about 2018, actually, when I started the journey of looking around, going, we have loans, we have bank accounts, we have cards, we have all kinds of cards, we have all kinds of programs and credits and debit cards, and we have ways to move money via wires and transfers. Where do we have a gap in what those services actually support? And I landed in a place of nonprofits. I landed in looking at the nonprofit community and how are nonprofits actually moving money? How do we donate, right? We give money to nonprofits. But when I happened across a Facebook community that was actually pay it forward, whatever county, and I was studying the responses and the posts in that community for probably 2 months. And I happened across a woman that was actually explaining that she was living in her car, she was homeless, and she had no bank account, no money for gas, and she was using her car as a house, as shelter. And she was asking for gift cards, donations, or ways to get money to her without those resources to be able to receive it. And she was using Cash App, or she was saying, hey, you can PayPal me, because those are things that I can receive money. Or if you want to meet me, and give me a gas card, I would really love to do that. Or someone help me get a hotel room, right? So I can get out of this car in the middle of summer. It was right around that time that I really started researching and following the unhoused journey, the people that don't have homes, or those that are really living without access to the banking systems that we know today. And that's really what put me on this journey of there is a lot of individuals that are communicating, reaching out to other human beings for help or for support using these Facebook communities and groups to connect with people so that they know that they're not alone, but there's hidden money wounds there. So
Sure.
that's really what started the journey, Kyle.
Yeah, that's fantastic. When it comes to this nonprofit, and there's some questions in that inside of the nonprofit concept too. Because right now, like you said, there are nonprofits out there that are not doing good things. I mean, their administration is being paid way too much. They're not really putting the money where they say they're going to be putting the money. I don't have any examples in this moment, but I know I've heard other nonprofits have very bad management. And what did you do when you helped co-found this nonprofit? What kind of discussions did you have about covering expenses that are going to be things that need money? Like I've talked to a couple other nonprofits, and they want to start a podcast, and that's money. For them to not have to do it themselves and pay a producer, they have to spend money to do that. And so what is it, when you're building that nonprofit and you're doing and especially in the early days, and you're doing some of the work because you're the one creating it, how does it work when it comes to paying what if I started a nonprofit, and it was something for podcasting, how would what is the mentality and the concept of being able to pay for the services but not overpay? You know what I mean? So you're still on the up and up. How does that work when it comes to presenting that? I'm sure it's all got to be public and whatnot, but
Yeah, we have to be really, really responsible with the dollars, because if you think about it, if we're going to spend money to earn donations or to create a service, we have to be responsible with those dollars, because people are expecting impact for the
service.
mission
Yeah,
that we're asking them to support. We
sure.
have to actually be reasonable with our services and the fees that we actually pay. So there does need to be agreements and memorandums of understandings with all vendors and all providers that we would hire, consultants included, and so forth, that bring visibility to, I spent your dollars here
Here.
to get
Okay.
this, progression on this particular service. So a podcast is a great idea, a great example, because social media and marketing, and this is all part of our capacity. So a lot of conversations stem around capacity building. And here for our nonprofit, because we came out of an enterprise kind of corporate for-profit model, we took those lessons learned of those enterprise kind of methodologies and building products and going slow so that you can go fast later, building the infrastructure that we needed and the systems, and really doing a ton of work collaborating and building up our community that were on a shared mission so that we could collaborate, we could pool our dollars, we could leverage existing audiences, and then go faster across those audiences because we've all decided we're on a common mission, we have a cultural fit, we want to do good with the dollars that we raise. And we want to have transformative impact that doesn't just keep recycling people through the system for the communities that we serve.
And I want to go back to the homeless gal that you had mentioned earlier. So and this is totally have no clue, but I mean, if you're in that world, like how, when you mentioned that she was asking for gift cards or she had PayPal, I mean, how many homeless people still have a cell phone? Because they were probably, a lot of homeless people, they weren't homeless always. They didn't get born into homelessness. I know that there's still probably people that are born whose parents are homeless, but I'm sure that when it comes to the people that lose their job, they have a downfall, they become homeless somehow, we're in such a digital world with our cell phones now. What is the percentage of homeless that still have a cell phone that could go to this digital world and it could be all done through our phones? Because I know it's out there, Lobster, our Cash App, there's a lot of stuff now that is based through our phones. And I really feel like in the future, we're not going to have debit cards anymore. We're not going to have cash anymore. It's all going to be digital, in my opinion. I don't know how far we're out from that, but tell me what you found in the homeless world, or the people that you've dealt with, that still have cell phones that could actually benefit from having a foundation like this that helps them out digitally.
Yeah, and our government has actually seen to it that we can distribute aid through phones. So the homeless population and many vulnerable populations have access to benefit programs. They're funded by the state and or the federal government levels that see to it that they do get access to a phone. Now, is it a top of the line Apple? Is it a top of the line Android? No, but it is a phone
Yeah, there's
system that comes
so many people that turn in
preloaded.
their phones that are a year or two old that still work just
Yes.
fine.
Yes. And so, I think it was, previous legislation, it's even called the Obama phone, but there were programs that were created to ensure that vulnerable individuals have a lifeline. And that lifeline is actually what keeps them, at least able to search for jobs, at least be able to find resources in their community, connect with resource centers, make a phone call if they're in a dangerous situation. The challenge is that most of the time we're dealing with theft of their devices. We're dealing with broken devices that are harmed in the weather, and there's a constant recycling of these devices just to keep that lifeline in their hands, right? Without that lifeline, then you're right. They absolutely do, kind of fall off, and they're kind of in the wild, sometimes in the very cities that they live in. Even though it's a city full of hustle and bustle, they're not seen and they're not tapped into that economy.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's so important, because I really feel, I think in general, when I dove into the lobster world a couple of years ago and started looking at what's going to be happening digitally to our world in the years to come. Of course, I'm a lover of new adopted things. I wish we could be into that point much faster, but it's hard to give up cash and bank cards and checks and all that stuff. And I'm hopeful for a world one day that I'm alive and I can take part of it, where I go to the store, I tap my phone, it comes out of my wallet. Not whatever that is, whatever bank that is, whether that's my physical bank or whether that's my coin bank or whatever, or my crypto bank, what have you. How far away do you think we are from a world that we can be 100% digital?
I don't I don't think we're that far off to answer the question. I think that it's already happening. I think it's in different pockets of the population. So I want to go back to, what you're describing is what we call, in this digital transformation age, which was really started probably way back in 2014 when we started seeing the momentum build for moving from physical, tangible payment factors, a debit card, a credit card, a check, or pulling cash into how do we get more and more of this activity online and actually to transform the user experience of these payment forms to more digital forms, right? I was on the project that launched Apple Pay to the communities, right? So we had to find ways to get combination of a phone plus the banks that were involved in holding the deposits and the credit unions to combine with, Apple and then Visa and MasterCard to make it all work. We brought the chip cards to the communities, right? So, I mean, rolling these types of technologies out is not easy. It takes a lot of work, a lot of planning, and a lot of execution. But as we think about the financial needs of underserved and unbanked or underrepresented communities that we don't really know what their money movement needs are other than when they show up at a homeless shelter or a resource center that needs, support by human beings and have an extension and a need for money. So what's really important is we have to remember that they sit outside of the access to the banking systems. By large, they have reasons and barriers that keep them from accessing the services, or they have emotional barriers that keep them from even going into those environments because of the credit systems, the other types of kind of shaming mechanisms that happen that create that self-driven awareness of I'm not good enough to be in the banking system, so I'm going to stay outside of it. Then it's a matter of how do you take that type of what we call Web 2 technology that's in centralized systems with centralized rules and access, permissions, and they are permissions, to more of a how do I reach the individuals outside of the system that are living and trying to move money to help them survive in areas where they're already vulnerable. It just increases the vulnerability in many cases. So we're always asking individuals and organizations to think about how do we take a more trauma-informed lens to this type of system and include economic and financial trauma. And, you have mental, you have physical, you have, disasters that happen to individuals and families, but it happens on an individual basis every single day as well. And so we have to think about making those systems more reachable and accessible and inclusive for all.
Right. And that's what you do inside of Inspire World.
That's what we're working to do.
I gotcha. So how many people do you work with inside of Inspire?
So Inspire is... It's a very small foundation right now. We have a team of we have a board of advisors. We have an advisory board that is trauma informed researchers, practitioners across many different industries. And we have a nonprofit community of nonprofits that we actually serve. So we actually intend to serve other nonprofits and help them build
with
capacity.
Their money movement and stuff. Gotcha.
Correct. Yes,
Wow.
and to help design new systems or repurpose existing systems to serve this vulnerable community.
And how long has this nonprofit been around?
So we just hit our 1-year birthday on June 1st.
So you're still in infancy.
Yeah, we are. But this is built on top of a consulting firm that I had as part of my entrepreneurial journey. When I left the corporate world, I started a digital commerce consulting. And Janine and I actually really started doing the work, and we dedicated about 24,000 hours of pro bono consulting work deep in the community to find the signal that we've now built into the foundation. And that's grounded and rooted. All of our mission work is now in that foundation based on that 24,000 hours worth of work.
That's amazing. So when people are listening to this and they want to go see more about your foundation, how do they find it? Like where do they go?
They just go to inspireworldfoundation.org. Our mission and purpose is there. You can see about the different fueling resiliency programs. Everything we do is research backed and survivor approved.
Gotcha. Now, do you have a success story that you can share from someone that of course, no, I mean, I don't know how HIPAA is with me, and in the medical world, HIPAA's the world, right? Like everything's HIPAA. So I'm not sure how it works when it comes to nonprofits and you sharing the stories of success stories, or even troubled times. I'm sure you can't say their name, which I'm not asking you to do, but are you allowed to share someone's story who you've helped and succeed?
Yeah, so we've actually been working through other nonprofits. So I will share a success story that's actually she is now our what we call community market advisor for failed adoption and coming out of the foster program. But one of the unique things that we do is we amplify survivor stories, right? So we don't just come and ask them to speak so that we can get donations. We actually create a exchange of commerce with them, right? Because we are commerce informed, trauma informed, and believe in fair and what we call restorative commerce. So what Terry is doing is she is using her voice to share information about her money movement challenges, and in exchange we've given her a scholarship to actually receive parts of the donations that come into the foundation for her advocacy for change in the foster system and in the failed adoption system. So she is now getting ready to, she's come out of a deep area of, just real mental health challenges, some real depression and anxiety episodes that really used to just completely debilitate her. And she is now using her voice to speak out and mentor. She's on a path to become a certified advocate for human rights with the United Nations. And she's speaking on different webinars and sharing her story and giving us insights to where we can go and create change in the financial industry. And one example is here in Florida, a local credit union heard her story at an economic empowerment summit that we hosted, and actually has already changed appointments so that people that need extra time, that feel like they can't come in and feel safe without anxiety at the branch, can make a special needs type of an appointment to come in and get that extra time with a community credit union representative. So that's an example of just being exposed to these
Right.
types of stories can
Sure.
help us become more heroes, right, for the type of jobs that we do in an everyday world.
Well, and it sounds like the networking that is involved within your organization is really where the support comes to, because they feel heard. Someone who comes in with some form of financial trauma, and they've got somebody there that will be supportive and they can trust, and there's a foundation involved. It takes the anxiety out of, well, they're just trying to get my money. Like, oh, this is a service company that's trying to make money off of me to help me. You know what I mean? Where it's not, it seems a little bit more of a more gentler way to assist someone. And then you found a niche area for them to help, and that's fantastic. So, fantastic. When it comes to the foundation, you mentioned the name earlier. We're going to wrap things up here. So, what else do you have? Anything like any type of webinars that teach people about the foundation, or that you, if people listening to this want to know more about the foundation, is there a central place other than the website? Of course, do you guys have weekly webinars or monthly webinars where you try to, and if hopefully someone's hearing this and says, hey, that sounds like something I want to help out with. How do they get more information than just this 20-minute talk that we've had?
Oh, thank you, Kyle. Yeah, we do have a YouTube channel, so we do create some just very homegrown videos at this point. We do have an event coming up this actually tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, and it's
Okay.
called it's really with Lavinia Osborne, who is the founder of Women in Blockchain Talks. We have a community collaboration partnership with her to talk about social impact and to bridge traditional finance and banking services with decentralized banking services, and talking about it from a social impact lens. So what can we do with this technology to truly fuel doing good and making a difference in the communities in which we work and play? But we don't have a podcast just yet. We've actually been looking for opportunities, hint, hint, to really get the
I'm your
word out
man.
and to
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about.
I've got a lot of
Absolutely.
great ideas when it comes to podcasting.
Yeah.
I've used it. A lot of my clients they've it takes a little time to get it going, but I've talked to one of my clients, and he said that his podcast, and they've already rebranded once in the middle of their podcast of me helping them. They rebranded once, and that's
Yeah.
fine. They were
Yeah.
getting ready to leave my services, and I'm like, hold on a minute, what's going on? And they're like, well, we're going to rebrand. I'm like, I do that too. And they're like, you do? And I'm like, yeah. So I helped them rebrand, and now they came to me, and they said, wow, we're using podcasting as our number one marketing tool, and they're starting to see their brick and mortar business now start to take off. And of course, people podcast all the time for digital businesses too. But so yeah, fantastic. When it comes to, I had a question that when you were explaining your event. So this event that you're having tomorrow, most likely this will be up tomorrow. It is a Monday right now, and my episodes go live on Tuesday. So most likely this will be live before that 11 a.m. Eastern time, but most people will hear it after. Is this something that you do on a monthly basis, weekly basis? Where can they go find maybe where the next live event's going to be through a calendar system on your website or anything like that?
Oh, we do have our events on our website. So we did host one back in April. We're not quite on that routine basis just yet, Kyle.
Yeah, but
I'm
that's what you
certainly
were
trying
doing.
to
Okay.
get there. But as we interview our survivors, so Terry's interview was April, and we're getting ready to do another one with another foster youth. So those are absolutely individuals that you might even want to have on your podcast
Sure.
if you're
Well, and that's what,
interested.
as soon as you said that, I'm like, there's your podcast. There's the start of your podcast. You
Yes.
interview your survivors. You interview the people you're helping, and and then that could be interwoven with information from other people and experts that come in to explain blah blah blah, to explain blockchain. I've already got your podcast already figured out in my brain. That's
Wonderful.
how I
So
work.
we would love to we'd love to talk with you, Kyle, about working with us. And we do have, we're a 501(c)(3), so it's all
Sure.
great pro bono services that you can do in kind, and we can give you a donation receipt for. So
That's
those are
awesome.
just another way to do that as you monetize. But yeah, absolutely, it's part of our strategy, and we'd love to have partners like you to help us do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, well, we'll wrap things up. People that are listening, all the folks out there tuning into the Ignition Path podcast, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share any of the information. I know that Connie and I, we've already been speaking. I've been on one of her webinars. Great information. She had a great webinar that talked about the crypto world and some things that I get kind of geeky about that I don't really talk too much about on my podcast. But it was fantastic information. I can't wait to dive deeper into that information that she gave me. Miss Connie Davis is a jack of all trades. She has a lot of irons in the fire. Please, please, please find her information if you want to know more about her and maybe even want to talk to her about her other services that she provides. Please don't hesitate to reach out to her through the organization Inspire World Foundation, or just I'm sure she'll have all of her bio stuff in the show notes, of course. And reach out to her. She's one of the most interesting people I've met in a while. She's a lot like me when it comes to different things that we try to. We're people pleasers. We want to help everyone. We want to serve. Like, that's really why we're doing this. I don't podcast to have my ugly face shown to the world. I podcast because I want to serve people that I meet, and this is one of the ways that I do it, is serving through podcasting and bringing guests on. So, thanks so much, Connie, for coming on.
Thank you.
Any last things that you want people to know that you're like, oh crap, I want to talk about this too, or say this?
No, I just would say that, for us, our mission is every person that we can serve, to your point. If there is someone that has a serving moment of just need and love and just being seen and heard, it means the world to them. So having their story, every story matters.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, thanks, Connie, so much. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming on the
Kyle.
Ignition Path podcast, and talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Ignition Path, fueling the entrepreneurial fire.